Hi, Petersen Museum. My name is Dennis Varni, and I'm going to show you around my garage, my working shop, and my home later. Well, I'd like to share some of these motors here. First off, this is an Offie motor from a 1967 Indianapolis car, and I happened to find it one day. It was complete, and it made like 1,100 horsepower with the turbo on it and everything. It's ready to run. It's one of Justin's last motors they made, and this was my grandfather's fruit stand, and I made it an engine stand. Just in memory of him as well as I could enjoy it. That's a little Alpha motor. I don't know why I own it. I just love it looking. And this is the unique motor. It's a Frontenac, and I happen to have 3 of these. This is a display one. I have one that Iskandarian used to own, the car as well as the motor in it, and he had a Frontenac in it. This is a Model T motor with a dual overhead cam setup run by a chain on a Model T. This is some of the memorabilia in this place. You know, they give you hats all the time for going on events, and you can't wear them all, but I hung them up because I like looking at them. You know, that's a spark plug collection behind you there. I became world famous for a moment buying spark plugs at Hershey one year, looking around and buying them. And this is other memorabilia in here because I like car-related items. This is my newest little thing, which is a 47 International step-side van. It's going to be the Cheech and Chong vehicle. When I get all done, it's going to have, it goes up and down with airbags. It's got an LS1 motor in it. It's going to be painted orange from here down and cream on the top, and like a 50-50 bar. And I don't know why I own it. I just kind of thought they were cute and fun, and it's gonna go cruising around. This billboard was, they put 3 billboards up in San Jose for the Grand National Roadster Show when it was in Oakland in the 90s. And I happened to participate in the 92 year, and I won the show. And so I went looking for the paper, and I found the guys, and I gave them a half gallon of VO, and boom, I got the paper. And then I had a guy build the framework and the catwalk around it. And it was really neat until I started cluttering it up with all the motorcycles and other stuff, you know. And then right behind you there, this is really kind of interesting. We were on a trip in Arkansas, and we went to an antique store. I can't pass up a junk store or an antique store. And this guy had all these meat grinders. And I said, you know, I think I need to buy those. And I said, I'd like to make a stack, and if you're acceptable, I'll pay you $50 for the stack. So I bought this stack of meat grinders, and I just kind of stacked them up. And this is an old street pole that you used to push the button to get across the street, all these green poles. And then I welded them all together on the stand. I just love looking at it, and it reminds me of that trip that we took in Arkansas. This is an E-type Jag that's still working on it. You know, Jaguars, you need to have 2 of them, or 3 of them, one for parts, but we're working on it. I've got about 13 motorcycles and scooters, and they're all over the place. I've got them hanging and so on. And then in here, this is Uncle Charlie. He's my mascot. He rides this Gilera. He's a friendly guy. This is my Buckaroo car. I use this at the drag races. It's got a Model A motor and a Model T, and I call it a Buckaroo because I covered the seat in cowhide, and it's just for fun, you know, kind of car. This is an interesting little piece that they used to have in the 20s. They used to drill holes in their windshields and then put a light in it. This would have been like a spotlight on cars. And so they could find the address of the home they were looking for, but it had a pistol handle grip on it. It's kind of interesting. So I said this was a 27, but this is a 28 grill shell on a 27 that we cut down and put on there. And this is my French Batman that rides on it. And I call this the high heel special buckaroo car. And this has got a Krager overhead Model B motor in it with 297s on it. Crazy little car. You know. This is my small car section, Multipla, which is kind of crazy, 6 people clown car. And that's a little Topolino, Woody, and that's an Isetta. And that's a Renault over there, a 4-door convertible. And this is a Vespa that it's got a little body on it that's kind of crazy. But, so when I get in this thing, I got to wear this helmet because you can't ride down the street without the helmet on, you know, so that you look right in it, you know. So the little Renault is got a blower on it. So instead of going 45, it goes 55 now. And the Multipla, the 6-passenger thing's got an 850 instead of a 600 in it, and it's got Campanoli wheels on it. It's just crazy stuff, you know, to do. And the Isetta is basically pretty stock, and the Topolino has got a little turbo on it. So it went from 14 horsepower to I think 39 horsepower. But now I don't have any brakes to stop it. You know, it's kind of fun. Porsche designed this car for the French. They didn't put blowers on them at the time, but this was the French's gift to the world, where the Volkswagen was for the Germans. And so this is the little blower here that we added to it to give it a little more power. This car here is, I call it a bank robber car, is a 63 Mark II Jag. I call it a bank robber car because in England, all the police had Austins, and the bank robbers had these Jaguars that were much faster. And so I took the liberty to louver the hood and have the hood louvered and lowered it and so on. And I'm working on it right now because I had to put they didn't have synchro meshes in the day into first gear. So I bought an adapter for somebody from Australia and put a Subra transmission up to it. And so I've got, those are the seats, and I'm reinstalling it right now in the car. This is the race car section here. The orange car, the 222 and the 901, those were all cars from the 60s. And the blue one was Herta built this car. It was a helicopter engineer, and they were going after Mickey Thompson's record at the time, but he passed away in the car, and it's a sad thing. It didn't hurt the car. And this car, I just retired in 2018, 17 or 18, and I went 345 in that car. And this car was an old car that was on the cover of Hot Rod. The Markley brothers originally built it, and I went 265 in that. And I think they went 298 when they had a longer course and they were on fuel and so on. But so that's my Bonneville section of cars. This is how you get in. And the steering wheel comes off here, and I lay down inside there, and it's a great ride. A lot of fun. But at 79, I decided to retire it and let it relax and look at it with all the other Bonneville cars here. This is my Mexican car. I love this Nash because it looks like a turtle. You know, it's a bathtub upside down, and we run the original class in it, and it's kind of fun. We're going to Chihuahua in April of this year to run the 25th, and there's a 1,000-mile race down there in the canyons, and it'll be kind of fun to do that. This is a 39 Mercury that we shipped it to, before it was finished, we shipped it to Amsterdam in a container, and then from there we sent it on to, or drove it up through Germany, and then took it on a ferry to Oslo, and then drove all the way up to where the road ends to North Cap. And it was kind of fun. My wife and I we went, I think, 4 weeks just traveling around Finland and Sweden and Norway in this thing, and they called it a veteran's car. And it was so funny because they stopped us. They're really into this alcohol issue, which you can't drink, but a lot of people drink because the sun never goes, I mean, it's daylight until 12 o'clock at night in June, and they drink a lot over there. So they have these road stops, and they stopped us, and this lady, police officer, came up and had to do a breathalyzer thing, and which she did, and I was fine. And the other officer walked up and he said, "Well, where's your front license plate?" And I said, "You know, it was on there, but when we got to Germany, before we came over to Norway, somebody took it from the dock." He says, "Oh, those Germans." He goes, they do that. Well, I didn't put one on, but I had to give him a story or give me a ticket. It's got 6 carburetors on it, but only 2 of them work. And it's got a Vertex in it, and it's a 350 Chevy stock, you know, with a floor shift 5-speed in it. It's a great little car. This is a Falcon that my wife and I went to Africa, South Africa, and ran a rally and won it, actually. Beat 2 Le Mans drivers. I was very lucky, let me put it that way. We went 6,500 miles, and we had a great time in that car, a lot of fun. Then we took it to South America. I came in 13th there, but didn't have any problems with the car. That's a 52 Cadillac, just because I think they're, you know, that's Americana. You know, it's a big cruising chrome bumper monster. And the little Fiat up there is a Zagato. I haven't restored it yet. It's in the Group 2. It's a double bubble. That's a 65 GTA factory race car. And then the number 5, which is a Romer, has a Duesenberg engine in it, and that is a board track car. And I use that once or twice a year on different venues. And this is a 55 Chrysler 300, that's the first muscle car that was ever made. This is 2 4-barrels with a Chrysler motor, and this was the iconic, you know, everybody thinks the Chevrolet with the V8 and all that. Now this is the muscle car, the first one. This is a Model T here, and it has one of those Frontenac motors that I mentioned earlier, and it's pretty wild looking, and it runs super, drips a lot of oil, but it's a great little car. I built this car to go with my friend Dick DeLuna to the Great American Race in 1995, and this, you had to go, it was terrible for us because this car would not run very slow, and you had to go like 24 miles an hour for 12 miles and then go a little faster, and we were idling at 30 miles an hour kind of thing because of the motor. We had a lot of fun in it. And you think of today's modern technology, this is a 4-cylinder with 16 valves in 1924, and then if you look here at this steering wheel, if you see the odd shape that it's in, it's way up. It's called a Fat Man steering wheel. That's where you drive it, down like this. And to get in and out, because it was such a tight fit, you just slid it up so you could get in and out of the car. So you think the innovations of new things that are in cars today, it's been done before. I think I could start it. This car, this red one, is a 29 Ford that I won the Grand National Roadster Show with. I still use it. It's a great car. I love it. I'm going to be down at Father's Day this year in it for the LA Roadster Show. I'll drive it down. And this has got a little blower in it. It's a 406 Hawk motor inside. And this is 30 years old now. And the turn signals are in the bat wings here. Probably pretty dirty, but it's kind of a fun car. This windshield came out of a 67 to 72 Chevy truck. The curve right in the center was just the right part to get the curvature, so you could still use the instead of having a straight windshield, they have a little bit of a curve to it. And then all the gauges in this car, I wanted a 200 mile-an-hour speedometer, and I went to Momo, which were gauge builders, and they said, well, we have 200 mile-an-hour speedometers, but they say Smith on them. And I said, well, okay, I don't mind it. You know, I want a tack and a speedometer. And then I want all the other gauges to say Smith also. She says, oh, we don't have those. They're only VDOs. She says, but we can reprint them and put Smith on them. I said, well, if you can put Smith on them, put Varni on all of them and do new faces. So all of these gauges have my name on them. And I went to my mother because it has the blower on it. And I said, what's the Italian word for supercharger? And she goes, well, I guess turbo. And I said, that doesn't sound good. So I made up my own word, and the gauge for the boost gauge says Busta. Over in the corner, there's a 1924 Fortson tractor, and I bought 3 of them for $300 back in the early 70s. Didn't have any money, and I rebuilt the 3 tractors and made one good one. And so it always kind of, instead of sitting in a bar, I sat and worked on the tractor. And it's up on wooden pedestals now, and I just love looking at it. It reminds me of the day when, whoops, didn't have 12 cents. This is a car that I bought at an auction, and it wasn't like this, but the headlights are 37 Fords, and they had chopped the top and did the front fenders, but nothing else. They didn't do the bumpers. We did those, and I wanted a Woody. And the car, we continued on. It stretched the fenders, and it's got its own luggage in the back. And the motor in this thing is an Etzel, and there was 3 of these injection systems built by a rocket scientist down in the Long Beach area, and it was on the cover of Hot Rod magazine. So I bought this at an auction, at a swap meet, and said I had it on display. And then one day when I decided to do this car, I thought, this is the motor to put in here, you know, just because it's unusual. This is curly maple. We bought a tree so that we could put it on. It's a really neat. It's got a Morrison chassis underneath it. It goes down the road super. It's got its own luggage, as I said, there. And it's a custom Woody, you know, by all means. And this is a Sportsman. And when the war was over, World War II, Ford didn't have any new cars that they were going to do, so they decided to do a wooden car, and Chrysler was doing a Town and Country at the time. Well, if you had any money, after the war, and you were going to buy a car, you always bought a Town and Country because it was a much more quality car than a Ford. But because they didn't sell as many Fords, I think the Fords are worth more than the Chryslers now. And it's got oil windows that go up and down. And this, in Los Gatos, where I live, there's up in the mountains, there's a nudist colony. It's one of the oldest nudist colonies in California. So I wanted this license plate frame put on there, and it says Natural Lupin Lodge, and I just added all this other trinkets to it, you know. But it's a nice car. It's a little bit hot rodded. It's got 2 carburetors on it and Offenhauser heads. That's how I found the car. This car, 33 Ford, is a car that Steve Moe built for me. It's got a 427-inch small block motor in it with a blower on it, 871. It's a rocket ship. It's too fast, but it's a wonderful car. I take it on different rallies, hot rod things. In 32 to 33, 34, the Lincoln had a Greyhound dog on it, and Fords also had dogs. You could buy it with a dog, but my dog had a deficiency, enzyme deficiency, and so it's just the bones of the dog. And these are Bugatti headlights that are on it. They're Marshalls. I wanted a kind of a European look to it. This Woody is one that my grandson and I are doing, but he's off to college, so it's sitting in the corner now. I have enough of my own projects to do without getting involved in his. Well, I hope you enjoyed my shop, and we're gonna go on to my garage at home, and I'll show you some more cars there. Well, this is the garage at home, and this is a 200S Maserati. There was 27 of these that were made. These were sport racers. They had a 2-liter motor in them, 4-cylinder. Great little car, fast, nimble, but really exciting looking. And this is a 58 Alpha that I took a little liberty with, and we cut the windshield down 3 inches out of this and put some plastic windows on it to give it a good look to it. And over in this side over here is a kind of rare, it's a Maserati motorcycle. I wanted it because I ran out of room, and I wanted a Maserati next to the Maserati car. Well, this is the downstairs garage, and this room here is basically just a kind of a relaxing room, a library of automobile stuff and things. The gas pump with a TV in it so that you can watch videos, and just odd things. This is an interesting piece, sculpture here, that's a gun in a tricycle, and it's all made out of wood. It's quite interesting. Michael Cooper did that. That's where I got my first black eye in a bumper car, so I had to have one of those. My dad put me in one of those in San Francisco, and I was behind that thing, and boom, I got bumped, and I got a black eye, so I had to have one. So that little green car up there was a Pontiac, and my mother gave me this picture of me as a kid, maybe 2 years old or 3 years old, and when she did that, I blew it up, and then I went looking for that car, and I found the car and redid the car. And I got this wonderful trophy here. I must tell you about this. And it says first loser on it. We were in France and we came in second. So the people we were with, I was so excited because we came in second. We thought we'd go up on the podium. We didn't, only the first place guys did. So the lady and the husband had a trophy made and it says first loser, meaning second place. And I always cherished that. And this is my other garage. This is the church of what's happening now, because it's just car stuff in here. This is a Lamborghini Miura. It's a great car. Their styling is just unbelievable for 1970. The motor is 12 cylinders and it sits sideways in the car. Doesn't have a radio. It's just the sound of the motor is exciting. You know, it's just 12 cylinders sitting sideways. It's not a race car, it's a grand touring car. This is a D-type Jaguar. It was one of the cars that was used, not at Le Mans, but it was used as privateers running it in the United States. And I use it on rallies now, as well as the Maserati upstairs. This is a Rolling Bones car out of New York. And actually the Petersen Museum got me really excited about the Shaw's car, the blue Bugatti that's there. The windshield goes up and down, and I was going to do that to this car, but instead we just used it and let it kick out. And this car, it's got a DeSoto in it, and the seats are from the reindeer of, I bought reindeer in Iceland, and two of the reindeer changed their occupation. And they're here in the car now with me. This is a little Dino 72 that I kind of changed up a little bit, took all the bumpers off it and put motorcycle turn signals in the mouth and put some plastic on the headlights. Took all the bumpers off the front and rear of it, and it's a fun car to drive. You don't get tired of driving that. This is a 120 Jag. This car, just a nice car. It has a Tremenick 5-speed in it, so that you can. Jaguar never had synchros in first gear, or any of the British cars, so you had to come to a complete stop to put it in gear. And so I had a 5-speed in when I bought it. And we shortened the windshield about 1.5 inches on this, just to kind of give it a little better look. This little Healy here is a BN2, and I put the headrest on the back because I was influenced by the D-type that has the headrest. And this car was done in Australia. I was down there in a rally, and I saw these Healys running, and they were beautiful, and they ran really great in the races. And so I asked the guy if he had any, and he said, oh yeah, I got a stack of them. He bought them in the US. This one came from Glendale, and I bought it on a credit card. And he restored it there and shipped it up here, and he put the headrest on it, and the headrest actually folds into the other part. And when my wife saw this car, it was really funny because I had the windshield down as it is now. And in this model, you could take and loosen this and bring the windshield up to an upright position and then put a top up. But if you're riding in this position where it really looks the coolest, you get a lot of wind, so you got to wear goggles. And we were in Utah and running along in a rally, and this black cloud came. And I said, oh God, it's going to rain. I'm going to have to stop and put this cover up on the car, or put the top up in the windshield. And then she saw me do that, and she said, you mean all this time for the last 3 days we could have had the windshield up and we could have been protected instead of the bugs hitting us? And I said, yeah, but we look better this way. The car next to it is a 1940 6C 2500 Alpha, and Graber Body built that car. It was influenced a lot by, it was the only one they made because of the wartime. You know, they were bombing Italy, and so they got this chassis out and gave it to different coach builders, and he took his design was to pinch the fenders and changed the louvers on the hood, left the original grille, put, instead of Alfa Romeo or headlights, they put Bosch headlights in, made the bumpers different, changed a lot of the car. It was a lot of German influence because of the Swiss. They have a spare tire that looks like a Mercedes in the back, but it's a one-off. They only made one because of the war. This is a little Sprint Speciale, a 61 Alpha that Conrad Stevens did this car from Berkeley for me, and we took all the bumpers off it and kind of gave it a racier look to it. Pretty nice. Nice fun car. Taking this to the Copper State next month in Arizona. This Mercedes is a 61 Mercedes. I thought I was buried in this car when I bought it, and then restored it, and now they're crazy price-wise, but I love this car. They're big cast iron doors, cast aluminum doors, and it's really interesting because you hold it out here and you let go and they just shut. This is 1961. I mean, look at the door handles. They pull out, they got hand grips in them. This is stuff that's you see today on Teslas and on other cars. It's just way ahead of its time. And interesting enough, there's 25 moving pieces in this ashtray because everybody smoked in the 60s. And if you smoked in the car and your top was down, you put your ashes in the ashtray, and the ashtray has another ashtray underneath it, and it dumps those ashes when you close the lid down into another ashtray down below, so that the next time you open it to put your ashes in it, they wouldn't blow out in your face. It's just interesting, all the thought that went into the cars, you know, in those days. This car also has its own luggage, which is fitted to the car. This is a 1936 little midget that came out of the Northwest area, and this is kind of the 30s midgets that were built in the day. And this has got a Willys motor in it, little Hinkle head on it, but aluminum bodied, cute little car. This is a 47, pardon me, Curtis with a V860 in it. I left the interior original because it had a burn mark. I don't know if the guy was smoking a cigar in it or what, but and I drove it on alcohol once, and then we cosmolined it, and now it's just a showpiece. And then these are motorcycles from a 13 Indian to a Dayton 15, and then these are Italian bikes here. And it was really interesting, this bike here, this MV Agusta. MV Agustas were always red and white. They never painted different colors. And the guy that painted this, I said, well, you got any extra paint around that we can paint this? He said, I got some Model A green and black. And I said, let's paint it that. And we did paint it that color. We went to a show, we won first place with it. And the guy that was supposed to be an expert on MV Agustas said, look at this unusual paint job on this bike. And it was Model A green. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of my garage, the upstairs and down. This is the Church of What's Happening Now, and I hope that I see you again soon, and thank you very much.